I just gotta be me, baby. Okay, so what I want to spotlight here is we've got Venus catching up to Mars. And we talked a lot about this in the Venus in Leo, Venus retrograde video about how Venus is never actually going to catch up to Mars. It looks like she's going to. She's the faster moving planet, but she ultimately loses speed. And Mars moves into Virgo, and Venus kind of stays behind in Leo, where she has some unfinished business and some things that she needs to move through and blow off some steam. But right now, I mean, these two planets are pretty close together, and both of them are coming up on this doubling square with Uranus. So for Mars, it's going to be on the 26th, but we'll feel it building leading up to. And by now, we're already starting to feel the buildup of Venus moving into that square with Uranus, which we'll see getting slowly. So this is a longer Venus square that we're feeling build up here for quite a few days. And it becomes exact on the 2nd of July. So that weekend before the 4th of July, if you celebrate or observe or live somewhere that does, that is going to be kind of, to use the word explosive, like fireworks. That's what we use to describe Uranus, something that grabs your attention. Thinking about the attention grabbing sign of Leo. So Venus and Mars coming off this square with Uranus, that seems like a very big deal. Thinking about Leo being the natural home of the sun, which deals with visibility, self-expression, authenticity, this kind of sense that I was born this way. This is who I am. And in a square with rebellious Uranus. So I feel like this is, a movement here. I feel like this is where we're going to see things start to kind of pop off. We may see a little bit of unrest coming in with this aspect. First, we're going to see Mars. Mars is in a square with Uranus. This is your classic rebellion aspect. Squares are all about where there's tension, where energy needs to be moved, energy needs to be released. There's too much friction, there's too much heat. So there's a little bit of restlessness here, Mars square Uranus, but it's in a fixed sign. So we may feel it more in this contained, difficult to release kind of energy. Fixed energy is a little bit more stable. And so we may just be kind of holding that. And in some ways, it's a good thing, because when an aspect like this shows up in like a cardinal sign, for example, it's over and it's done with, versus fixed is where it gets sort of like realized by the body. It gets realized by the psyche. We're holding it for long enough. And I feel like this degree of the fixed signs has been so under pressure by Saturn and Uranus in recent years that this is an activation that gives you the go ahead. So I know a lot of fixed heavy people who've been wanting to make big changes in their lives, but have been experiencing a great deal of resistance, whether it's inner resistance usually, or something else from the outside world that's kind of creating hesitation or doubt. This may be like this sort of double, I want to say like a double entendre, but that's not the word I'm looking for, but like this sort of piggybacking, doubly emphasizing energy on Uranus, which is the planet that insists upon individuality, insists upon authentic expression. Uranus does not want to be enclosed. Uranus does not want to be limited. And Uranus says, there's another way we could be doing this. Why aren't we doing it that way? Uranus says, let's live in the now and let's try it today. So there is sort of this pressure from within this stable, fixed energy of we got to do something. We have to move this uncomfortable energy. So yeah, for me, I think like this is very angsty. Mars in a square with Uranus. This is like very punk rock, very angsty kind of energy. And also, I think like with Leo, Leo being the sign of, like, this doesn't mean if you're a Leo, you're this way, but Leo is like the sign of the ruler, the sign of also the tyrant. So there could be like sort of this pushback against the powers that be, or the way things are, or the ruling elite, the ruling class. So there can definitely be like this tension there. If there's a situation where power is being abused or it's limiting people's expression, which we're definitely seeing, there can be some pushback here. Moving on to Venus, this is kind of building from the 25th of June to July 2nd. I mean, Venus is the artist. Venus is all about authentic self-expression in Leo, and it's big. And remember, Venus is coming off of a square with Jupiter here. So there's a largesse here to our self-expression, something perhaps flamboyant or bold and eye-catching. Makes me think of drag. It makes me think about this war against drag right now. And I think because Venus is going to make 3 squares with Jupiter and 3 squares with Uranus, that this is actually going to make drag more popular. I think more people who maybe haven't heard of it before are going to check it out and say, hey, you know what? I actually like drag. And it turns out I'm a big fan. I never knew. Or you may have more people turning out to the drag shows and catching the ladies on tour. I just think that the wigs are going to be bigger and the makeup is going to be bolder with this placement. A couple of my colleagues / students / members of Cauldron have also brought this trend to my attention called bimbo core. I didn't know about that. And I thought and basically what it is, if you haven't heard about it, is it's like hyping up your femininity, especially if you are like a cis female or identify as femme, just like hyping it up as an act of rebellion, as an act of revolution, as an act of saying, I'm choosing to embrace my feminine attributes or what culture says women should do because I like it, and also because it can also have an empowering effect and an intimidating effect. In other words, I'm not dressing this way because the patriarchy tells me to, but because it's a power source for me. I can wear high heels and large lashes and just feel in my power. So I feel like Venus in Leo in a square with Uranus, there's something rebellious about the way that we express ourselves, the way that we dress, the way that we love, like that authentic expression of love, the authentic expression of self. Another word of caution here, promise. That was my political little piece there, but on a personal level, Venus and Leo, I did a thread about this on Twitter and posted it to my Instagram, but people want to chop their hair. When Venus is in a fire sign, people want to make that impulsive hair change. This is going to be the time that the hair salons are going to get all those last minute bookings saying, I want a big change. I want to do this big color change. I want to do this big haircut change. This is the day. We're not retrograde yet. So if you want to go for it, go for it. Just know that Venus is moving slower. And my word of advice is if it's something that would be hard to come back from and you're feeling really impulsive about it, think about, do I think about it during the retrograde through September 3rd? And if you still want it, if you still want the big hair change at the end of it, then absolutely go for it. Venus is still going to be in Leo for a little longer. So that's my little bit of advice there. And I would also say that, this could be a big time in relationships. There could be some big breakthroughs. There could be some tension in relationships, either something that feels stagnant and we want to make a big change. We want to move that energy. We want to get a little bit more experimental or book a last minute trip or something. This is an energy that wants to stir the pot. This can be radical authenticity, radical honesty from within the relationship, asking for something that you desire, asking to do something a little differently. in the relationship, asking for some space. I mean, Venus retrograde, we're not there yet, but Venus in a square with Uranus, that feels a little bit more independent. So if your relationship's on the rocks, if it's been on the rocks for a little while, this can be a time when one or both people are kind of like, I just want some space, or maybe we're done. Although in the fixed signs, it's not that easy. People tend to hold on. So this could be an energy around just saying, like, we need to shift things. This isn't like working for me, or I'm bored, or this feels stagnant. Let's switch it up together and see if we can work on that. So yeah, radical honesty. Ask for what you want. This can also be radical generosity. This is a very generous energy here. So be generous with your shine, be generous with your heart, be generous with your values. That's something that Venus retrograde is a lot about, is what do I believe in? What's important for me? Where do I stand? So yeah, I think in the collective, this is symbolic of things really starting to heat up. It's going to create a little bit of ideological tension, and also tension from self-expression. I really think so, but hopefully it's a good thing. Hopefully it's liberating. That's the thing with the square, is that we feel stuck and we need to liberate it. We need to move it. So that's a little bit about the Mars and Venus square Uranus. I hope it's exciting for you. I hope it's liberating for you. And I hope it's eye-popping. And everything is just all the more entertaining for us in all the best ways. And I hope that it is, I genuinely hope that this is kind of like the pushback I've been waiting for, in the world. So yeah, like, stop taking people's rights. It's not cool. Like, we all have the right to be ourselves. So I think that that's what this aspect is largely going to be about on the world stage. But I hope in your personal life that it liberates you in some way as well. And that was your astrology shot of the day. And I'm wishing you all the best. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. Timing with Transits, my 11-week mentorship in Predictive Technique, begins on September 21st. We're covering transits, we're covering perfections. We've got a blend of live and pre-recorded tutorials and ongoing support throughout the program. So if you want more information on that, or you want to snag that early bird rate, head to my website, katherineurban.com.